In the quiet vastness of Montana's rolling plains, where the wind whispered through tall grasses like an old friend's secret, lived a man named Jack Harlan. Jack was a rancher, 62 years old, with hands calloused from years of mending fences and tending cattle. His ranch, a modest spread of 500 acres, sat miles from the nearest town. The days blended into one another as sunrise chores, midday solitude, evenings spent watching the horizon swallow the sun. Jack's wife, Clara, had passed away 5 years earlier from a sudden illness, leaving him with an ache that no amount of hard work could fill. He spoke little, even to his few neighbors, and the silence of his home had become his companion. One crisp autumn evening, as the sky turned a soft shade of orange, Jack stepped out onto his porch. The air carried the scent of pine and earth, cool against his skin. He paused, coffee mug in hand, listening to the distant low of his cattle. That's when he heard Ida, a faint, muffled cry from the edge of his property, near the dirt road that cut through the fields. It sounded like a voice, weak and desperate. "Please. Open it, I can't breathe." Jack froze, his mug halfway to his lips. The words hung in the air, impossible yet clear. He set the mug down slowly, his heart quickening. Was it the wind playing tricks, or perhaps an animal in distress? He scanned the fading light, spotting something unusual, a burlap sack, tied at the top, lying in the grass just off the road. It twitched slightly, as if alive. Jack's boots crunched on the gravel as he approached, each step deliberate, his breath steady but his mind racing. Loneliness had made him question his senses before the ghostly echoes of Clara's laughter in the empty house. But this was different, real. The sack was old, stained with dirt and what looked like oil spots. It wasn't one of his. He knew every tool and bag on the ranch. As he drew closer, the voice came again, softer now, pleading, "Help. Please open it, I can't breathe." It was a woman's voice, strained and breathless, like someone trapped in a nightmare. Jack's hands trembled as he knelt down. Who would do this? Why here, on his isolated land? He thought of the stories he'd heard in Tona, strangers passing through, troubles from the city spilling into the countryside. But those were just tales. This was his reality. He reached out, fingers brushing the rough fabric. The sack moved again, a subtle shift that sent a chill up his spine. "Hold on," he muttered, his voice gruff from disuse. "I'm here." He untied the knotted rope with careful pulls, the fibers rough against his palms. The voice inside grew quieter, a gasp now, labored. Jack's mind filled with questions. What if it was a trap? Or worse, what if he was too late? He took a deep breath, the evening air filling his lungs, and lifted the sack's opening. What he saw made him freeze, his body rigid as stone. Inside, curled in a fetal position, was a young woman. Her hair, dark and matted, fell across a face pale from exhaustion. She wore a simple dress, torn at the hem, and her wrists showed faint red marks, as if from restraints now gone. But it wasn't the sight of her that stopped him cold, it was her eyes. They were the same deep blue as Clara's, wide with fear and relief. She gasped for air, her chest heaving, and whispered, "Thank you. I thought no one would come." Jack's world tilted. He hadn't seen eyes like that since Clara's funeral. Memories flooded him, their wedding day under the big sky, her laugh echoing across the fields, the way she'd hum while cooking supper. This stranger couldn't be here, or Clara had been gone too long, but the resemblance was uncanny, a ghost from his past breathing life in the present. He shook himself free of the stupor, reaching in to help her out. "Easy now," he said gently, his voice cracking. "You're safe. Let's get you inside." Her name was Emily Reed, she told him later, as they sat in his warm kitchen. Jack had wrapped her in a blanket, brewed strong tea, and listened as she spoke in halting words. She was 28, from a small town 2 states over, running from a bad marriage that had turned controlling and cruel. Her husband, in a fit of rage, had bound her, stuffed her into the sack, and driven her out to the middle of nowhere, intending to leave her for dead. But the car had hit a rut, the sack tumbled out unnoticed, and he'd driven on without looking back. "I screamed until my throat burned," Emily said, sipping the tea. "I didn't know if anyone would hear." Jack nodded, stirring his own cup slowly. The kitchen light cast soft shadows on the wooden table, the clock ticking steadily in the background. He shared his own story then, words tumbling out like rain after a drought. About Clara, how her death had hollowed him out, leaving him to rattle around the ranch alone. I stopped living, really, he admitted. Just existing. Emily listened, her eyes those familiar eyes soft with understanding. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows like a reminder of the world's harshness. As night deepened, Jack showed her to the guest room, once Clara's sewing space, now dusty with disuse. "Rest here," he said. "We'll sort this out in the morning." But sleep evaded him that night. He sat on the porch, staring at the stars, wondering at the twist of fate. Why her? Why now? The resemblance stirred old pains, but also a spark of something new, a hope. Perhaps. He thought of the years wasted in isolation, the way loneliness had become a heavy coat he couldn't shrug off. The next day dawned clear, the sun painting the fields gold. Emily emerged, looking stronger, her color returned. She helped with breakfast, cracking eggs with steady hands, and they talked more. She had no family left, no place to go back to. "I was suffocating long before that sack," she confessed. "Trapped in a life that wasn't mine." Jack felt a kinship, his own suffocation and grief mirroring hers. He offered her a job on the ranch, helping with the horses, tending the garden Clara had loved. "No pressure," he added, "just until you're on your feet." Days turned to weeks. Emily proved capable, her presence filling the house with quiet energy. She laughed at the calf's antics, hummed tunes while weeding, and shared stories of her childhood under similar wide skies. Jack found himself opening up, sharing memories of Clara without the usual stab of pain. One afternoon, as they repaired a fence together, the sun warm on their backs, he paused. "You remind me of her," he said softly. "Not just the looks, the spirit." Emily smiled, wiping sweat from her brow. "Maybe that's why I ended up here." Fate's funny that way. Tension built subtly in those weeks, not from danger, but from the slow unraveling of walls. Jack worried she'd leave, that this fragile peace was temporary. Emily sensed his fear, her own uncertainties mirroring his. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the porch, she turned to him. "I was scared to trust again," she said. "But you've given me air to breathe." That night, a storm rolled in, thunder rumbling like distant drums. Rain pelted the roof, and Jack couldn't sleep. He heard Emily's door creak open, her footsteps soft in the hall. She appeared in the kitchen, wrapped in the blanket. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. She shook her head, joining him at the table. They talked through the night about losses, dreams deferred, the quiet strength found in starting over. As lightning flashed, illuminating her face, Jack saw not just Clara's echo, but Emily's own light. The twist wasn't in the sack anymore, it was in his heart, opening after years of closure. In the morning, the storm had cleared, leaving the air fresh and renewed. Emily decided to stay, not out of obligation, but choice. "We both needed rescuing," she said. Together, they transformed the ranch, planting new flowers in Clara's garden, adopting a stray dog that wandered in, building a life from shared solitude. Jack taught her to ride the trails, and she taught him to laugh again, deep and free. Months passed, and the ranch bloomed. Neighbors noticed the change, stopping by more often, drawn to the warmth. Jack no longer felt the weight of emptiness. Emily had brought breath back to his world. One day, as they sat on the porch, watching the sun dip low, Jack turned to her. "I froze that night because you looked like everything I'd lost. But you gave me back what I needed most, a connection." Emily took his hand, her touch gentle. "And you opened more than a sack. You opened a door to healing." In the end, they found that loneliness isn't forever, it's a chapter waiting for the right turn. Jack and Emily's story became a quiet legend in town, a reminder that even in the vast emptiness, help can come when least expected. If you're feeling trapped, reach out, if there's always someone who might hear your call. And sometimes, saving another saves yourself.